Greetings everyone. We're in this beautiful setting here today alongside this creek to show you how to process dandelion flowers so that we can make dandelion wine. And here we have cute little dandelion growing right next to the creek. And so of course when you're harvesting for dandelion wine you want to pick a lot of flowers. This one you can see is just beginning to open. You could wait a little bit longer until it's fully open to harvest it, but you just want to make sure when you get the flower that it's in its prime and not, not overly spent. And how you can harvest them is you just pluck off the flower head like that, and you turn it upside down, and you see these little green squiggly things here, and these are the bracts, and these are very bitter. So we want to remove these from the dandelion, and you can do that just by simply kind of pinching them off like that. So there's all the bracts, and we can just give those back to the earth. And so I've made dandelion two ways. I've done it where I've just separated the bracts, but you can also remove the rest of this green material so that there's even less bitterness in your dandelion. And you can just kind of do this by holding on to all the flowers and pinching off. I kind of use my thumb fingernail for that, and I just pinch off these green parts. Save a couple of those there. And again, that can go back to the earth. And so we're left here with all these different flowers. Of course, you probably know they look like petals, but these are actually have all the parts of a flower in each one of these. And you just want to keep gathering enough dandelion flowers, depending on how much wine you're going to make. I usually gather 2 to 3 quarts of these flowers. So it definitely is time consuming, but hopefully you have a nice big lawn full of dandelions where you can just harvest, and then collect these and make your dandelion wine. Enjoy! So once you've gathered all of your dandelion flowers and processed them by taking off the stems and the sepals, here's what you're going to need for the next step in the wine making process. Here I have 1 pound of apricots, dried apricots, and I've chopped them just so that they're opened. So a couple notes on this: you could use a pound of raisins as well, either will work. And you'll notice these ones are kind of dark. Well, if you use some sulfured apricots or sulfured raisins, which are the golden raisins, then that's going to help your dandelion wine have a more golden appearance and color. I've chosen not to use the sulfured varieties just because I like to not have sulfur in my wines, but some people think that's not such a big deal. So if you want golden wine, be sure to get golden raisins or golden apricots, or the non-sulfured apricots. And here I have the juice of 3 lemons and lemon zest. Generally, to make lemon zest, you grate the lemon peel, and preferably you want an organic lemon. In fact, if you couldn't get organic lemons, I might just not even use them, since that's what's usually sprayed heavily with pesticides. So you want the organic lemon. And usually you grate for the zest, you just lightly grate the outside of the peel. We didn't have a sharp grater at hand, so I ended up using a little knife to peel off some of that peel. But you just mainly want the outer yellow portions. And I also juiced it, so there's the juice in there as well. You could also, another variation for this recipe, you could use 2 lemons and their zest, and also 1 orange and its zest. I couldn't find any organic oranges, so I decided just to do the lemons. And next, I have, my recipe calls for 2.8 pounds of honey, which this approximately is. You'll notice that this honey is pretty dark. This is grade B honey. A friend of ours gave it to us. The thing about this is, again, it'll probably make the wine darker. With the 2 things I have, the unsulfured apricots and with this darker honey, my dandelion wine is probably not going to be that wonderful yellow color. But this is what we had. A friend of ours gave it to us, so that's what we're going to use. And let's see what else. Oh, of course you're going to need yeast. And you can buy these little yeast packets from wine stores near you or online. Today I'm going to be using the Première Cuvée wine yeast, and it's an active dry wine yeast. And I'm not really, this is what the recipe calls for, but any kind of white wine yeast would work fine. And you could also use, I have some friends who primarily use baking yeast, like for breads. It definitely does make their wine taste a little strange though. Good, but just a little strange. So I like to get the actual wine yeast. It's very inexpensive. It costs maybe 50 cents to $1 for one packet. And if you buy a bunch of packets, then usually you get a deal or something. And then the other thing we have over here is the yeast nutrient, and I just bought that at a wine store. And you'll also need a bucket, at least a 2-gallon bucket or a 2-gallon glass jar would work well. And this is what you're going to put all of your dandelions in. Have them there. And wine stores sell these buckets. This is a food grade wine bucket, so nice to get those because it's made out of 100% food grade materials. So the next step that we're going to take is we're going to make some sugar water with all this honey. We're going to put 2.8 pounds of honey in and dissolve it into 1 gallon of boiling water. And one other little thing I wanted to divulge to you all, I am making dandelion wine. Dandelions are usually found in abundance in spring. It's definitely December out there. And what happened was I gathered all these dandelions and had every good intention to make wine and just never got around to it. So these have been sitting in my freezer since April or so. And so this will be kind of an experiment of how long you can freeze dandelion flowers until you can make wine and still have it turn out well. So I'll definitely report back. Hopefully all goes well. And let's get started making some sugar water. Okay, so here we are making this sugar water. And as you can see, it's quite dark because the honey I used is quite dark. And there's a little bit of sediment on the top, so we're probably going to be filtering this through like a muslin cloth before it goes into our wine. And everything's dissolved. We're just going to bring it up to a slow simmer just to kind of inoculate it a little bit. So we have a gallon of water in here with the 2.8 pounds of honey. And you can certainly use sugar instead of honey if you would like. I'm not quite sure how much off the top of my head of sugar you would need. I'm guessing probably somewhere around 3 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds as well. I like using the honey because this is a smaller batch. We're only making a gallon. I've never made more than a gallon of dandelion wine because if you've already gathered and processed your dandelions, you'll know it's quite labor intensive. So usually about a gallon is all I make. But of course, if I was making 5 gallons of any wine, I would certainly just buy sugar because it's all the same to the yeast, and once you heat the sugar, it actually loses a lot of, heat the honey, it loses a lot of its medicinal values anyway. So, and if you used honey, especially grade A raw honey, in any 5-gallon wine recipe, that could easily cost you hundreds of dollars. So it's just best to stick with honey with small batches or use it primarily for mead. So once this gets to a little rolling boil, we're going to strain it off into our bucket with flowers in it. And we'll see you then.